This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Remember the boat that Gary Hart was on when he got in so much trouble? It goes by the name Monkey Business, and it's back in the news. This time, Hart is not involved, but the owners of the Miami-based yacht have a real problem. The problem grows out of a controversial new policy that is the latest part of the government crackdown on drugs. Juan Vasquez reports.
The Coast Guard proudly showed off its latest catch under the zero-tolerance program today. The Monkey Business, the luxury yacht that once carried Gary Hart and Donna Rice into notoriety. Inspectors found several grams of marijuana on board, and that's enough to seize the boat. Seizing the Monkey Business is only the latest example of the increasingly controversial zero-tolerance program. In places like Key West, it's the talk of the docks.
Yeah, what are you going to do? They walk on your boat and stick a gun in your face out at sea. It's supposed to be America, the land of the free. There ain't nothing free anymore.
When inspectors found a few marijuana seeds on David Phelps's shrimp boat, they not only seized the boat, they took the shrimp, too.
We had about 1,800 pounds of shrimp, 75 pounds of fish, which they sold, the customs did, and kept the check.
Hell, this is my livelihood. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to think? Who's going to help me? I don't have friends in Washington.
Critics say zero tolerance is an enormous waste of manpower and unfair to many of those caught in the government's net.
It sends a message when you just start arresting abusers and you don't have the resources to arrest traffickers. And what good does it do?
It's the most ineffective and inequitable thing I've ever heard of in drug enforcement. I mean, I don't even want to call it drug enforcement because it's not. It's a publicity stunt.
But the government is so enthusiastic about the program, it's slapping the zero-tolerance label on everything it seizes, including this Colombian airliner. Private vehicles can be taken whether the owner is present or not.
So zero tolerance just says that's bad. It shouldn't be accepted just because a lot of people do it.
But back in Key West, one commercial fisherman has hired an attorney.
The feeling here is that this can't last long, because it's just going to be much too much injustice for the general public to stand.
While it lasts, though, zero tolerance can hurt. The government says it keeps 95% of the cars, boats, and airplanes it seizes. So, for the moment anyway, the Monkey Business is just out of business. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Miami.
President Reagan said again today that he will definitely veto the huge trade bill recently passed by Congress, an action that could cause real problems for Vice President Bush. White House correspondent Terrence Smith has that.
Good to his word, President Reagan announced in his radio address today that he will veto the trade bill because of a provision requiring 60 days' notice of plant closings and layoffs.
This should be decided by bargaining between labor and management, not by some arbitrary rules laid down by politicians and enforced by Washington bureaucrats.
Speaker of the House Jim Wright pounced on the issue, making the case for the plant closing provision on compassionate grounds.
In the name of Patsy Edwards and 117 employees who lost their jobs in Tampa with only 1 day notice, please sign the trade bill.
The president's threat to veto the popular plant closing restriction is just the latest example of a politically explosive position staked out by the Reagan White House without regard to the campaign consequences for George Bush.
There have been a series of issues which have, the White House has had one interest and George Bush has had another, and those interests have conflicted.
The administration's public insistence, for example, that General Noriega step down, has raised disconcerting questions about what Bush knew about Noriega's drug running as far back as 1985. The president's refusal to remove Attorney General Edwin Meese from office has confronted Bush with accusations about the so-called sleaze factor on the campaign trail. Gergen thinks the only solution is for George Bush to open a little daylight between himself and the president.
On some of those things, the vice president simply have to say, this is not the way I would do it in a Bush administration, and here's what I would do.
And Ronald Reagan's role?
He's going to have to instruct his team that they're also Bush's team in order to make this work.
That hasn't happened yet. White House officials rarely even mention George Bush's political needs when deciding how to handle the tough issues. The focus here is still squarely, even exclusively, on Ronald Reagan and his place in history. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
Bush's problems are not all at the White House, of course. Campaigning on the West Coast, he has found trouble where the president almost never did, with the Republican right wing. We have more on that now from Jacqueline Adams.
Draped in the symbols of Ronald Reagan's conservative presidency, George Bush preached party unity this week in the Republican West.
This party is going to be unified with only one purpose, and that is to whip whoever the Democrat is in the fall. Dukakis or Jackson, bring them on.
But there's rumbling on the Republican right. Conservatives are suspicious of what they call the vice president's establishment liberal origins and his flip-flops on abortion and economics. With local polls showing Bush behind in traditional Western Republican strongholds, conservatives are holding crisis meetings, afraid Bush will lose in November unless he proves he's one of them.
If he doesn't send that signal, he is history. He is going to lose this election for certain unless he runs a solid conservative campaign.
And that's not all. Bush is in trouble with evangelical Christians, too.
We know he's a nice guy, but we don't really know how he stands on some of the issues.
He is not a conservative movement person the way Ronald Reagan was.
Bush doesn't deny that. In fact, he and the Republican right wing have never warmly embraced.
I'm a conservative, but I'm not a nut about it.
As a result, the right wing has put a price tag on its enthusiastic support, namely, a strong conservative for vice president, someone like Congressman Jack Kemp, Senator Bill Armstrong, or Education Secretary William Bennett.
We're looking for somebody that conservatives are confident is a conservative in his heart.
But the Bush forces say they aren't worried. They point out they already have the active support of conservatives like Congressman Bob Dornan, who believes that in November, the right wing will have to come home.
They'll all be on board for good, positive reasons. Bush is a great man. And the negative reasons of the opposition is frightening to conservatives.
It'll be a choice of Dukakis or Jackson. It'll be like the McGovern race in 1972.
Conservatives have a longer memory, though. Over the last 40 years, they say, no Republican has won a close race for the White House without them. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, Portland, Oregon.
And one other political note to the dismay of some Republicans. Evan Meekum, who was impeached as Arizona governor last month and now faces criminal charges connected with campaign loans, was elected today as one of the Arizona delegates to the Republican National Convention. He says he'll support George Bush. No comment as yet from the vice president. Coming up in tonight's broadcast, new controversy over the president's schedule in Moscow, and we'll hear about a burning controversy in the woods of Oregon between conservationists and loggers who want to finish the job that nature started.
Introducing an automobile born for the great American road. Riata by Buick. A premium American two-seater, Riata offers the exhilaration of a sports car and the luxury of a Buick at a most attractive price. If your destination in life has always been the top, go ahead. You deserve it.
Carol Burnett's sister.
I'm Christine Burnett. Am I funny? No. Does my investment firm, Dean Witter, still treat me like a star? Uh-huh.
You're somebody, Dean Witter.
A member of the Sears Financial Network.
How can you help your home sell faster? Protect the major appliances. If your real estate company can't do that, then you're not listed with the right real estate company. Because you're not listed with an ERA broker.
Soviet troops are set to start pulling out of Afghanistan in a matter of hours, and tonight Afghan President Najibullah said that he is confident his government will survive. But only hours earlier, at least 20 people were killed in rebel attacks in Kabul, most by a massive truck bomb. Barry Peterson in Moscow reports.
The bomb blew up at dawn in a Kabul suburb near where reviewing stands were being set up for ceremonies tomorrow. Ceremonies marking the first departure of Soviet troops, the beginning of the end of the Soviets' more than 8-year presence in Afghanistan. This was the second such blast in Kabul in a month, the anti-government guerrillas making their presence in the capital well known. And in the field, the hit-and-run war continued as well, even as troops started pulling back. The ongoing battle, say officials, will not slow down the withdrawal, which is expected to take up to 9 months. The Soviet commander in Afghanistan told a Kabul news conference that up to a quarter of the estimated 115,000 troops would be gone by the end of this month when President Reagan comes to Moscow for a superpower summit. Soviet TV viewers tonight were shown a helicopter crew preparing to abandon its position. One soldier said he was happy to leave, but then launched into a litany, the names of his friends killed in this war.
Боевой опыт передают молодому поколению. Все это будет им большая польза.
A war the Soviets know will go on long after they've waved goodbye. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
Ukrainians are one of the largest ethnic groups in the Soviet Union, and they have suffered religious persecution for years. That is why many of their relatives in this country are upset by what at first glance would appear to be one of the least controversial aspects of the president's coming visit to Moscow. It is the president's planned visit to the monks at the 700-year-old Danilov Monastery, currently undergoing a much-needed restoration, that has set off the uproar.
He's being swept in their propaganda campaign to show that there is religious tolerance in the Soviet Union.
At the White House, they deny that. There, the line is that the president will use the visit to publicize his effort aimed at more freedom of religion in the Soviet Union.
Hopefully, what the president can do is, in recognizing that, is to go in and talk about how there ought to be an ability for others to be able to have their religious points of view heard, so that you can get away from, where people have to practice religion in secret. That hopefully is a powerful message for this president to carry.
The administration became so concerned about the possibility of backlash, however, that Ukrainian-American religious leaders were among those invited to a recent White House conference, where the president offered reassurances about his upcoming visit.
We pray that the millennium of Christianity in Kiev Rus will mean freedom for the faithful in Russia, in the Ukraine, the Baltic states, and all the regions of the Soviet Union.
But while the president was reassuring the religious leaders, the controversy was spreading to Congress.
Well, I think that it would have the potential of being another Bitburg for him if there were as many Ukrainians in this country as there were as many Jews in this country.
Bitburg, of course, is a reference to the controversial 1985 presidential visit to a German cemetery where members of the Nazi SS had been buried. A Russian expert says such comparisons are unfair.
We have to understand the enormous antagonism within the Soviet Union among different nationality groups, and that's what President Reagan has walked into. But in no way is it an insult to lives that have been lost or anything like this. He's got himself caught in the fight between the Ukrainians and the Russians.
And whatever else might be said about it, with all the other problems the administration has these days, it is a fight Ronald Reagan could very well do without.
Welcome to another round of Name That Cereal. Fruit and fiber cereal tastes so good, you forget the fiber. Are you ready?
Yes. Sweet and chewy dates, fat raisins, meaty walnuts, crisp light flakes.
All right, name that cereal.
I know. It's fruit and fruit.
Oh, sorry. It's Post Fruit and Fiber cereal, packed with delicious fruit and high fiber flakes. Tastes so good, you forget the fiber.
You hear the thunder, the call of the road.
Whether it's the roar of an available turbo or 16-valve engine, Grand Am is sheer driving excitement.
Get on to Pontiac and ride, Pontiac ride.
And now, with $400 back direct from Pontiac, you can really cash in on Grand Am excitement.
Get on your Pontiac, rebuild excitement.
Miracle Grow really produces. Here's proof.
Listen to these champion gardeners in the Guinness Book of World Records. They'll tell you how to get more flowers and more vegetables from your garden.
If you want your onions really big, use Miracle Grow.
Miracle Grow grew the biggest dahlia in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Miracle Grow makes everything grow bigger and better.
You owe it to yourself to try Miracle Grow. You'll get so much more from your garden. Now the Miracle Grow No Clog Feeder. So fast, so easy, you'll feed your whole yard in minutes.
Rioting inmates still hold 3 hostages tonight at a state prison in southeastern Oklahoma. Prisoners grabbed 8 guards late yesterday at the Mac-Alford Correctional Center, torching 3 dormitories. Inmates released 5 hostages today, but threatened to kill the rest if a rescue is attempted. In South Africa, one category of crime is continuing an unparalleled rise. The pressure of maintaining apartheid is leading whites to murder members of their own families in alarming numbers. Martha Teichner has our report.
Magdalena Vermaak sobbed and clutched her twin sons as school children bore the coffins of her 3 other children to their graves. Children she killed, gassed, after shooting her husband. Days before she was supposed to go on trial for murder, she killed herself in her jail cell. South Africa leads the world in family murders. Every year since 1982, the number has doubled. And almost all of the victims are whites, traditional Afrikaans-speaking whites, the group who created apartheid, with the most to lose socially and economically as South Africa's blacks move up.
What pressures does society bring to bear on these unfortunates?
It's a form of absolute loyalty towards the family, in a way, to take the family with him when he feels he's not in control anymore.
During a Johannesburg radio show, a young widow calls in, desperate, struggling against the urge to kill her son and herself.
You don't want to go on. If I just, me and my son, if we can go to my husband, because, you know, it's so difficult.
Afrikaners are brought up to live strictly disciplined lives. As they see the order breaking down, more and more decide that killing their families is the only way to save them. The tidy lifestyle, the security once guaranteed by apartheid law, that middle-class Afrikaners thought was their birthright, is crumbling, along with their self-image. In his movie Saturday Night at the Palace, South African actor-writer Paul Slabolepsy portrays the anger and the self-destructive violence of the white South African losing his grip in an increasingly black world.
This is the pulse of white South Africa at the moment. Men don't cry, men grow up to be strong, men rule, men can control. And if men can't control, then hit out. If you can't lash out, if you can't go out and indiscriminately shoot people in the street, you're going to shoot yourself, but you're not going to go alone so kill your family as well.
Family murders are averaging 2 a month in South Africa. More than 120 people have died in the last 18 months, and authorities expect the number to keep going up. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Johannesburg.
It's a big game, big boy. And that basket seems mighty high. But you know you got the stuff because your mama got you off the ground this morning with a real winner. Howdy ho, wheat, time to gloat. Cause you don't wear no sugar coat. You just can't beat that pure whole wheat. Now go tell your mama what the big boys eat.
Whatever happened to real food? You know the kind that just tastes real good. Give me a steak and I won't be blue. I got a taste for some real food.
Beef, real food for real people. When you buy Corning prescription lenses that change, it's like getting free light tints, free medium tints, dark tints, and a range of free sunglasses all in one. Corning lenses that change, the only eyeglasses you'll ever need.
A government study out tonight predicts that in 20 years, new technologies will help us live longer and enjoy work more because machines will do the tedious jobs. There'll be more computers, especially in classrooms, the report says, and prefab housing will be sold in showrooms just like cars. Raw material for houses, timber, is at the center of a current controversy in Oregon these days between lumber interests and environmentalists. Terry Drinkwater has that.
Wildfires. They were the worst of the century in many parts of the West last year. But this spring, huge stands of timber they burned over are being salvaged. Because high winds swept the flames through these forests with such speed, only the limbs and bark of many trees were lost. What was left is worth millions. But the blackened trees are beginning to split and rot.
We're figuring that in about 2 years, we're going to lose almost half the value of this timber.
Today, where they can, lumbermen are cutting as fast as they can. There's enough salvageable timber here to build a small city, thousands of houses. But don't cut this forest, say environmentalists. This is the Kalmiopsis, a remote, rugged preserve in southern Oregon. And before the fire, it had never been logged. Leave it alone, some conservationists argue. It will eventually regenerate.
I think it's still in its beautiful, natural state, even though it has been burned. And it will come back in a new set of trees, just like it always has.
But, as they've done elsewhere, timbermen want to bulldoze roads through the trees and drag out fallen pine and fir. The Forest Service wants logging to begin in the Kalmiopsis this summer. Some of the trees would be lifted out by helicopter, but roads in this roadless area would also be built. That infuriates environmentalists. But in this part of Oregon, trees mean jobs.
You can't run a sawmill and employ the 180 people we have here on air. It just doesn't work. You got to have logs.
The salvaged timber could keep this mill operating for more than 3 years, a boon to the local economy. Lumbermen or environmentalists. It's by no means clear which side will win, particularly now because a pair of falcons, just like this peregrine, has been spotted nesting in the charred forest. They are an endangered species, and that could delay the cutting. So could the courts.
If we can get to court, we'll get to court. If we can, if we have to go out there and stand in front of the dozers or climb up in the trees, then that's what we'll do. Whatever it takes to, to save that place.
Nonsense, say the rangers. Harvesting and seeding are the way to go. The debate seems almost as hot as the fire itself. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, in the Kalmiopsis forest.
Times a day I used to hear, "Mom, where's the mustard?" or, "Honey, I can't find the ice cream." But not with our new Whirlpool refrigerator. The shelves slide out so you can reach food way at the back. And with the slide-out baskets in the freezer, nothing gets hidden away.
Oh, by the way, honey, you seen my golf clubs?
If they're in there, you'll find them.
We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool.
Why do you take aspirin more than once a week?
Because after one day of tennis, I can have 3 days of aches and pains. But when you take aspirin that often, you wonder about aspirin stomach upset.
Well, now there's a new and better aspirin product for you. Try Buffered Bufferin. Better than plain aspirin because it's 100% aspirin plus 3 buffers to help protect against stomach upset aspirin can cause.
You know, it really is better.
New Try Buffered Bufferin if you take aspirin more than once a week.
When your coffee's rich enough for all working day long, and it tastes your way.
It's necessarily Nescafe. Great coffee blends to change the way. That's necessarily Nescafe.
Iraqi warplanes today attacked a key Iranian offshore oil terminal in the Strait of Hormuz for the first time this year. 5 tankers were hit and 2 are said to be in danger of sinking. 1 crewman reported dead, 17 missing. Thousands of heavily armed Syrian soldiers took up positions today on the edge of Beirut's southern suburbs. They're expected to move in to stop more than a week of fighting between pro-Syrian and pro-Iranian militia. More than 200 people were reported killed. And finally, tonight, there were more observances today in Israel marking the 40th anniversary of independence, a part of the past now through the eyes of a man who has seen it all and captured it on film. Bob Simon with the story.
If journalism is the first draft of history, news photographs make it into the final edition. David Rubinger has been covering Israel for Time magazine mostly since the beginning. He was getting ready for a retrospective recently, dusting off 40 years of Israel, 40 years of his work, cutting up the captions of his life. It's remarkable how steady the themes have been, as steady as Rubinger's hand on a Leica. New arrivals, always new arrivals. Bewilderment. Brothers reunited. Brothers together. Jews in a new home after 2,000 years of suitcases. And the mirror image, Palestinians displaced on the road to nowhere.
The similarity of the pose of the Jew and the Arab, both torn out from where they had spent all their lives.
The Rubinger exhibit just opened in the old fortified citadel of Jerusalem, an appropriate setting for pictures of war, because that is the dominant theme of this country, from the sands of Sinai to the streets of the West Bank. Conflict is the constant, but there has been a change.
I used to photograph with pride, I now photograph with pain. To go into the West Bank and see an army that was the pride of the military world. I can't be proud about these pictures.
Without reading the captions, it's hard to tell who are the Arabs and who are the Jews. And ultimately, does it make any difference?
Well, the difference is Israel was the underdog here. Palestinians are the underdog today. Some people in Israel will tell you that it's better to be a living wolf than a dead sheep. I guess the answer is to be not a sheep and not a wolf, but to try and be a human being.
This is the picture Rubinger will be remembered for. It has entered the veins of this nation. Jerusalem, 10:15 a.m., the 7th of June, 1967. Israeli paratroops capture the Wailing Wall, a frozen moment with 2,000 years behind it. Israelis, human beings. Bob Simon, CBS News, Jerusalem.
That's the news. Susan Spencer will be here tomorrow. Later tonight on West 57th, Karen Burns reports on the medical problems among women living along Louisiana's chemical corridor. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News, New York. Good night.
What would you get if you crossed an Oldsmobile like this? With an Oldsmobile like this, you get an Oldsmobile that really cooks.
Now, save up to $1,440 on a new specially equipped Cutlass Calais. See your Olds dealer for details today.
Now's the time to buy a home because Century 21 offices are opening doors for you. It's our Century 21 Open House Weekend.
This weekend, we're opening doors all over the area to homes you can afford.
And Century 21 offices are selling more homes than anyone else.
Now's the time to buy a home. So come on in.
Put number one to work for you. Century 21.
Call your local Century 21 broker for details of our Open House Weekend.
Jordan, Magic, and so much more. The playoffs continue to rock tomorrow.
This is CBS.
They don't play favorites around here anymore. Do the job, you get what's coming to you.
Union, yes.
My union helps make sure I'm able to spend more of my time on the important things, like caring for my patients.
Say union, yes.
Working and raising a family at the same time isn't easy, no matter what you do. That's why we need our unions to help us, to support us, to give us a voice.
America works best when we say union, yes.
We have so much bad news to report every night that it's really great to have a little story like this one once in a while. It's Atlantic City.